I'd always wanted to get married, but I'd never been the type to obsess over wedding plans. When I met Emma, I knew she was the one almost instantly. She was beautiful, confident, and had this spark that drew everyone in, myself included. She was also, as I would later realize, very determined to get what she wanted, no matter the cost. Things were fine between us until we got engaged. After I proposed, Emma's ideas about the wedding started to spill out. She wanted an elaborate fairy tale celebration, complete with a grand ballroom, towering floral arrangements, designer dresses for herself and the bridesmaids, and a 4-course dinner. I'll admit I was a little shocked, but at first I was just happy she was so excited. The trouble started when she told me she needed a 6-figure budget. Wait, $100,000 for a single day? I asked, trying not to sound as panicked as I felt. Babe, this is my dream wedding. I want it to be magical, and that's what it costs, she replied with a huff. Everyone I know is going to be there. I don't want them thinking I had a cheap wedding. I didn't like that her focus was on what others would think, but I let it slide, hoping we could find a compromise. I told her we needed to save and start our lives on stable ground. Spending that much was reckless. Her response? You're only going to get married once. Why not make it unforgettable? Over the next few weeks, I saw more of that side of her. She pushed for everything extravagant and Instagram-worthy, ignoring my concerns entirely. When I tried to suggest a more reasonable wedding, she just brushed it off. If you really loved me, you'd understand that this is important to me, she'd say, looking at me as if I were the unreasonable one. It wasn't long before I realized she wasn't going to budge. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and bring the wedding costs down in secret. If she wasn't going to listen to reason, I would make sure our future didn't start out in debt, even if she wasn't aware of it. The planning. As we started planning, I quietly started cutting corners. First, I canceled her high-end caterer and went with a local family-owned business that made amazing food for half the cost. I swapped the $10,000 string quartet for a talented solo violinist. Then I downsized the venue, booking a smaller, more intimate garden with a rustic charm instead of the grand ballroom she demanded. Every decision I made saved thousands, but I kept it quiet, hoping Emma wouldn't notice. At one point, she called me at work to announce she'd picked out custom invitations with calligraphy done by some famous artist. They're gorgeous, just a little extra, and they'll set the tone for the whole wedding, she said. I asked her to clarify a little extra. Well, they're $40 each, but they're totally worth it, she said, her voice full of excitement. I ordered them already. Wait, you ordered them? $40 for one invitation? That's $4,000 just on paper, Emma. She scoffed. You don't get it, do you? This is the first impression people will get of our wedding. Don't you want it to feel special? We could put $4,000 towards our future, Emma, I said, holding back my frustration. You know, like a house or savings? Emma rolled her eyes. It's my wedding. I'm the bride. Shouldn't I get some say? That was the point when I realized that if I kept pushing back, she'd keep finding ways around me. So I quietly canceled the order and swapped them for simple, elegant cards that looked great and cost a fraction of the price. When she saw them, she didn't even notice the difference, just gushed about how perfect they looked. The manipulation. Her tricks didn't stop there. A few days later, she accidentally ordered a designer bridal bouquet that cost nearly as much as our original flower budget for the entire wedding. I only found out when her friend slipped up and mentioned it in passing. When I confronted her, she tried to play innocent. It was just a little more than the other bouquet, she said defensively, crossing her arms. Emma, that bouquet is almost $1,000. That's more than just a little, I replied. I was trying to stay calm, but she was pushing every boundary. Why would you even do that when we already had a plan? Because I want to feel special on my wedding day. Is that so wrong? Her tone was laced with frustration and a hint of guilt tripping. I didn't take the bait. Emma, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel special, but you don't need $1,000 bouquet to feel loved. This isn't what our marriage should be about. Her response was a frustrated silence, followed by a glare and a quiet, fine. I'll just get used to having a cheap wedding. In the end, I canceled the bouquet and went back to our original plan. But that wasn't the end of it. She started pulling every trick in the book, guilt, passive aggression, even involving her friends who would accidentally mention how lucky she was to have a fiancé who was going to make her dream wedding happen. When she tried to get me to book a last-minute meeting with a famous chef she'd seen online, claiming she'd already made the reservation, I finally hit my limit. "You know what, Emma? We're not doing this," I said, voice firm. "You're not running up more expenses, and I'm not sacrificing our future just so you can impress people for one day." Her mouth dropped open. "I'm just trying to make my wedding day special. You don't care at all, do you? If you keep pushing me like this, I'm going to start questioning why we're getting married in the first place," I shot back. I hated saying it, but it was true. She looked like she might cry or throw something at me, but she stayed silent. For the first time, I saw her realize that I wasn't backing down. The wedding day. On the morning of the wedding, I could tell something was off with Emma. She'd been a little distant, which wasn't unusual given everything, but I figured we'd get through it. As she walked down the aisle, I saw her stealing glances at the decor, the flowers, the simple but beautiful setup. Everything looked stunning, but I could tell she was underwhelmed. She'd expected extravagance, and what she got was a beautiful, budget-friendly ceremony. After the vows, as we mingled at the reception, she pulled me aside. What happened?" she asked, her voice tight. "The flowers, the decorations, they're so simple." "I thought you might notice," I said, trying to keep my tone calm but firm. "I made some changes, Emma. I brought the wedding back to what we can actually afford. I didn't want us to start our lives in debt." Her face went pale, and she looked around, like she was just seeing it all for the first time. "So you just went behind my back and changed everything." "Emma, you left me no choice. You were pushing for things that were way out of budget, things that we didn't need to be happy. I want a marriage with you, not just an expensive day that leaves us financially strained." Her eyes flashed with anger. "How could you do this to me? This is supposed to be my day." "And it is," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But it's our day too, and our future. I wasn't going to let one day ruin what we could build together." She stared at me, struggling to find the words. I could see the shock, the disappointment, the frustration. But I stood my ground, prepared to deal with whatever came next. The aftermath. As the reception went on, Emma's anger simmered, but I could see the wheels turning. Our guests were having a great time. The food was delicious, the decor looked beautiful, and people were laughing and dancing. The simpler setting gave everything a warmer, more intimate feel that I knew she hadn't wanted, but that everyone else seemed to love. Her family and friends kept complimenting us on the charming and cozy vibe, and it seemed to take some of the sting out of her disappointment. By the end of the night, her frustration had mostly faded, though I could tell she was still upset about my decision. After everyone left, she confronted me again, quieter this time. "I wanted this to be perfect," she said, almost in a whisper. "I feel like you didn't trust me to make our day special." I took her hand, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Emma, I wanted this day to be about us, not about impressing people or going broke. You're the most important thing to me, not the decorations, not the food. I hope you can understand why I did what I did." She sighed, looking down. I guess I got carried away. I just wanted, I don't know, to feel like it was magical." I pulled her close. "It was magical, and it was real.